allowed to get married and nobody else. I mean, he was getting like hard on the topic, and if I was sitting in the back of the church, believe me, I would have walked out because I really felt uncomfortable.
Well, if I were you, I think I would have done it anyway. And if somebody would have said something, not that anybody would, bring it up while he's speaking, I just would say, well, that's your opinion. It's the church's opinion, but people have a right to their own opinion. Okay? That doesn't make you a bad Christian. I mean, we can't always agree on everything. And I even said to Felix, I said, Pope Francis seems to be a fairly easygoing guy, and I think if he wasn't a pope and if he wasn't the vicar of Christ, I think he would say, who am I to say who should get married and who shouldn't get married? In fact, I think he even alluded to something like that in the past, But, he is Roman Catholic, and he has to espouse the view of the church, which says marriage is between a man and a woman, But I really think deep down, he would say, hey, whatever goes, goes, And I think it was a long time coming, for the other 16 or 14 states that weren't recognizing same-sex marriage, that now they have no alternative.
Some of them are still not.
Well, that's because the governors, and most of them, in fact, I think almost all of them are Republican governors anyway.
Yeah. They know they have to, but they said they have to go certain processes. They're stalling it a little bit. But I don't think the Pope would ever, personally or not, would agree on, would approve of same-sex marriage.
Well, I don't know. Francis has spoken up on many other things that usually the church is pretty silent on. I mean, you like to point out, Felix, that, he said even atheists can get into heaven. Now, if you're an atheist, obviously you don't believe in the existence of a God. Mm-hmm. So if the Pope could say something like that, being God's spokesman on earth, then, seeing Francis for the liberal views that he has, I really don't think personally that he would, say anything against same-sex marriage. Well, although I think he's probably smart in just keeping quiet on the whole thing.
I don't think I disagree. He was born a Catholic, and it's too inbred and Catholic. But a husband and wife, it's got to be a man and a woman.
Yeah, but part of the 50% of the people who, you said, the polls show that more than 50% of Americans, a good portion of them are Catholics.
I'm not saying that the layman is not going to agree with it. I'm just saying I do not believe the Pope would ever agree to it. And that's my feeling.
Like I said,
that's my feeling.
Not publicly.
I said personally or not. That's just my feeling.
All right, you're entitled to your feeling.
What do you think?
Well, I strongly believe that the Pope himself, I mean, yes, being that he is, a Pope, he can't really, I mean, if he really believes in the same-sex marriage, of course he's not going to come out and bluntly say it due to the fact that he is the Pope and, he has to show, he's from the Catholic, they oppose it and, he's not going to go against it because it'll cause some problem. On the other hand, I also feel that I think the Monsignor that's in my church, because I've had talks with him before, I think he also believes that you shouldn't take away a right no matter whether you're the same sex or not. But again, he can't freely speak it because he's Monsignor. And this Monsignor of my church is the left and right hand of the Cardinal and St. Patrick's. So, I mean, it's touch and go with an issue or a situation with this, with the priests and the cardinals and the popes. I mean, we really don't know what their true feelings are because they have to hide it, and I think it's wrong. I mean, you know, again, a religion shouldn't dictate how you act or how you feel, what you are.
But a religion dictates what they believe are morals, and what a man should be doing. And I don't think the more liberal guys that I heard talking about it say that they're glad that the gays have the right to marry and all that. But personally, I do not believe it, and I would not marry them in my church. And that was one of the...
Well, you know what? The church is losing a lot of parishioners. A lot of people turning away from the church. And why are they turning away from the church? It's because of what the beliefs are. Now, had the church, or if the church would change their minds and change their views, then I feel there'd be more people wanting to go to church, not willingly go to church, but wanting to go to church, because now they feel that the church is recognizing other beliefs, that it's not just, uniform.
Well,
and,
one of the areas, is allowing priests and nuns to marry. There's absolutely no proof that says that a priest or a nun cannot be devoted to Jesus Christ and to their congregants, okay, and at the same time be in a healthy relationship for themselves. Again, be it a same-sex relationship or a heterosexual relationship. Priests counsel couples that are having marital problems. How can a priest understand, and this has always been, one of my arguments, you could do all the reading you want, but unless you're in a situation similar to that of the people that you're talking to, how could you understand what a married couple goes through? And don't forget, Jesus never said that his apostles couldn't be married. In fact, most of his apostles were married. Okay? It wasn't until Paul, and Paul was married himself. Paul and some of the other important people in the Catholic Church, they themselves said that, you can't serve God and a family at the same time.
But that's only in the Catholic religion, and many of the Christian religions, you can get married as a pastor or.
Well, she's talking about the church itself. Why people in the Roman Catholic Church are losing congregants and people losing interest. And that's because the church is not willing to change.
I'm just saying, but you're talking about just Catholics. Catholics are just one part of the Christians.
But it's a great part.
It is a great part.
And she's talking about why the church, the Catholic Church, are losing congregants because they are not willing to bend or change. That's what we're talking about.
I understand.
Back then, the Protestant Reformation, Protestants, Lutherans, they all get married. Rabbis, imams, they all get married. And if nothing else, they've proven that you can be married, you can minister to a flock and be there for your people, and still maintain a healthy relationship and raise a family. So why the church is being so the Catholic Church, let me say, why they're being so stubborn, okay, by not willing to grant priests the right to marry, I can almost guarantee you that if they ever changed their mind and said that priests and nuns would now be allowed to marry, that you would find more people flocking to the priesthood as a vocation, okay? Because you have a lot of people who are religious who would like to follow and share in the teachings of the New Testament, all right? But that one stipulation, about not being allowed to marry and being chaste, okay, it turns a lot of them off.
Now, how about Hasidic Jews? Are the rabbis allowed to get married?
Of course they are.
I don't know. I'm asking.
Of course they are.
I'm just asking. I'm not. Okay. And then there was silence.
In fact, Orthodox Judaism is a firm believer when God said, "Be fruitful and multiply." Orthodox Jews have kids
seriously.
The way the Kennedys have kids, okay? They just
take it
pop
literally.
them out one right after the other.
I know that part I know, but I just wasn't sure about
They don't believe in birth control per se, So if you get pregnant, that's a gift from God. If you're worried about providing, they say God will provide.
That's
okay.
Also, then that's Medicaid.
And most Americans, will turn around and say, yeah, God providing is the government. Because you have a lot of Orthodox and Hasidic Jews, since they're supposed to study Talmud and the Bible all day, they're on public assistance. I remember when my nephew got married. My nephew got married in an ultra-Orthodox wedding in Brooklyn. Okay? He is one of those guys that you see, he doesn't wear, black hats or anything. He's getting a master's in fine arts at UCLA, and he teaches music composition at UCLA. And they're channeling him to become part of their religious studies department in the music department because he wants to write religious hymns, okay? But at his wedding, there were strangers coming and walking around and asking for what we call tzedakah, which you might remember as what you can say is like Christian charity, okay?
Yeah, the little box.
Right. Only these people walked around and, they didn't think twice about asking total strangers for a handout, all right, to help them, feed their families, pay their bills, or whatever. Now, this is the first time I ever saw anything like that, and I was pretty much taken aback. But according to one of the younger congregants who was there, he explained to me that this is very common, that this is what they believe, that when you share in the joys of marriage like that, that you shouldn't forget, those people who are less fortunate. What can I tell you?
These ones that are less fortunate to just have more kids than the others, I guess, huh?
I don't know.
Are we still there?
Yeah, she's there.
I'm here.
Okay. Anyway, tonight we're actually simulcasting on the Spreaker and on Blog Talk Radio. I hope it's working.
How lucky can we get? It's actually working today.
Well, we're not sure. We think it is.
I started listening on Blog Talk, and then it